get a notification in just a second. Alright, so it is streaming. Your voices are on the recording, so just keep that in mind. So the whole idea of this mission, again, you're going to kind of hear a lag between me and YouTube, so if you want to mute here, that's fine. So the whole point of this mission is to use the ships. In this, there are a lot of different ships, and they're big ships with a lot of different spaces on it. For example, this one, you can see it has a driver, a commander, and like 5 or 6 different gunner type roles. And this thing will shoot this big gun, it'll shoot these auto cannon to shoot incoming missiles, and I think this one also has the cruise missiles. And then there are a whole bunch of different ones. And this one you can tell definitely has the cruise missiles on the front. Replenishment ship. And these are all really decent quality ship. We'll probably use the smaller ones because they require less people to control them, but it does work. They do work well. And then it has submarines, different types of submarines. And these are all working vehicles.
Yeah, I want to see that.
Let's see, all different working
We
vehicles.
saw how you drove the last boat.
Reaper, we're streaming.
Oh.
And then it does have some submersibles, which are a little bit different than the standard ones. These ones actually have some weapons on them as well, so that's kind of nice. But other than that, so you can see I've already picked some key locations for the mission. I've marked them as objective locations. You can see with the yellow, that indicates I put something on the map generally. And this is where I said I wasted probably half hour just because it looked bad to me, and I figured I'd add it. So there was this big volcano-like thing here, so I just put some rocks and I put these platforms up to a lighthouse just because it looked good. And then I put a little fishing village, some boats, and a boathouse. That's really not an objective, but we're going to start near there, so I figured I'd add a little detail. This is one of the objectives. And you can see I added a base, another refueling resupply, this little cargo area, not quite completed warehouse, gas station, the air traffic control tower, water system, and then factory. And then they had the town, so I figured this would be like the town of the people working at these facilities and whatnot, and this will be enemy controlled area. One of the mods that as Zeus you can use, and I even recommend in the editor, is ZEI. What it does is it can fill the interior of buildings with objects, either civilian objects or military objects. It doesn't work with every single building, but I'll show you an example of might work with this one. So fill that one with military, and it didn't work. You can
Reaper 6 left your channel.
You can go in here and list the buildings and mark positions of windows and doors and stuff, and then make your composition and save it so that you'll have it available. I haven't gone through that. I've used mostly what they do or just used my own composition. There we go. So you can see it added sandbags, and it added a ladder that wasn't there, and it may add stuff inside if the building had an interior. So ZEI is nice. It does work in Zeus, but it doesn't work great in Zeus. A lot of times the sandbags will float or they won't be in the correct position. I don't know why it doesn't work as well in Zeus, so I tried.
I think I've got a lot of lag between what you're saying.
Yep, probably 30 seconds.
It's a lot.
Yeah, well, just mute him in here, and you just listen to video.
Exactly.
Or vice versa.
So this is all done with ZEI. They put green sandbags in one of the ZEI modules, is to switch objects. So I can switch objects to Apex, for example, and it'll switch it all to the green. Or if I want it to vanilla, just go back to vanilla, and it switches everything to vanilla. This composition here, this is one that I've made in the past, and I saved them. You'll want to start, and you can have compositions in Zeus as well as in the editor. I really recommend start saving your compositions. These are all my compositions that I've saved over the time. You see a NAK Tac or Vile Ace. You know, if I want to put an armored defense base in, there it is. I'm all done. You know, I know it meets what I want for that type of base, so I don't have to recreate all that stuff all the time. I've got little things and I've got big things, you know, just a tent headquarter, you know, little base. So compositions are good. Make them in Zeus. In Zeus, I'll show you how to do it in a few minutes, how to actually spawn a saved composition via Zeus. It is with one of the Achilles modules. So this one I lowered the sandbags. To select the sandbag, you just select it. You can see the yellow outline around it. This here says that I'm going to put, let me select it. So right here, this is the object's X, Y, and Z coordinate versus the world's X, Y, and Z coordinate. That'll make a difference when you're trying to align objects. This is align to ground, and this is to lock to the ground, snap to the surface or not. So for this H barrier, you can tell its height is probably more like here, but I needed to make it so this Dishka would fire over it. So I just click it and lower it to where I want. Because this is not a reactive object, it'll stay underground and be fine. In Zeus, you can't do that. You cannot lower things below ground surface. So that's why a lot of things need to be done in editor.
Hey, Val, sorry to cut you off. Is there a way to show your mouse?
Oh, yeah, probably. Where am I setting? Forgot about that. We go to properties.
Golden left your channel.
Properties, capture cursor. Okay. All right. You see it now? Yep. You see it now. Okay.
No, it'll probably come up in a second for me.
And it takes about 30 seconds to lag so you guys can cheat. You can see even placing things in the editor, I did miss ground height. So what I'm going to do is just select all these objects, tell it to snap to ground, adjust ground height and elevation, and then hold the Alt key and drag everything down. That gets everything. Sometimes you can see where it bounced there a little bit. Sometimes it wants to resist, but eventually you'll get it. Again, big problem in Zeus. Really difficult to get things to adjust to ground heights and whatnot. This wasn't a necessary section. I just wanted to add something. Get rid of this vehicle because it's the wrong type. We're going to be using Somalian and Central African forces. So we go to Somali rebels, go to their technical. I'm going to tell it not to place any crew in and place the vehicle. I'll add crew later on when we start the mission. And I'll put turrets at these locations once the mission starts. You can clearly tell where I intend to put turrets and whatnot. I did put the Dishkas here just because I wanted to make sure I had the height set correctly. So this is this one compound. Oh, we got a big shanty town over here as well. So we'll have civilians and enemies running around in this part of the town, and then again civilians and enemies here. When we do this part, I don't want you guys just artillerying it, and that's what I use civilians for, to make it anti-ability to artillery. So next section, we're probably going to go here next. We're in boats, so we can travel pretty fast. I want you guys to destroy that bridge. And then there's a small military compound factory here that we'll destroy. and I'm going to let you guys just hammer that with the weapons on the ships. Now you may need spotters. It may be more beneficial to have spotters, so you may decide to bring someone on land and up on these hills behind, and then have them spot for the missiles to get good hits. Last, this is when we're going to go on ground. Obviously, we're not going to do this all in one day, but I'm trying to build a mission so it does work over the 4 weeks or so that we'll play it. This is the part of the mission where we're going to be entirely on ground, and taking these different compounds, this area. You see I added this. Let me hide it real quick and I'll show you why I added it. So I can hide
That
it.
area is really cool.
It's just bare. I mean, that whole area was just barren, so it didn't look right, so I decided to go ahead and decide it. One of the nice things
Close
about
quarters.
editor is I can say hide all those objects. The objects are still there, they're just not visible or transport. You can see I put vehicles down. But when you look at that area of the map, this is all very bare, this is all very bare. So I'm going to start adding some things. So that's why I added that gun depot, and then I added the vehicle gun truck depot, and then the vehicle depot. So I'll probably replace this vehicle with one of the technicals as well. I've got a couple of them in here. So Control C, click, Control V. If you don't click, you never know where it's going to go, and then place it in. Because it's snapping to ground, I know it's going to pretty much be fine. You can move things around a little bit if you want. And now this is one of the other composition packs. This is a mod that I'm going to recommend that you get. It's Peachy's Compositions, and this is where I'm getting some of these compositions. I may start with this and then edit it and then save it, because I didn't like one thing it did. For example, this is pretty good, but it doesn't fit the housing here, so I may put it down and then decide to replace the house. So we can do that. Let's just drag the house out. And I know that these houses are Tanoa housing. Anybody, even if they don't have Tanoa, can use structures from Tanoa. It's all built into it. So we're just going to go into city, and again you can see, I can see them, at least a representation of them when I'm mousing over quick. And none of these really fit what I'm doing. House add-on is small, but that's not what I want. So we're going to go down to villages, or village, and now we're getting into the type of houses here. So we'll do a bungalow yellow, put it in. Now obviously these objects were meant to be on in the house. The elevation is set as such. So I'm just going to delete them real quick. I'll move these chairs over to here. Again, rotate, holding shift. That's the same key in Zeus. Altitude is Alt, same key in Zeus. Then I'm going to just position them like they're here. I don't like sleeping bags. Sleeping bags you can't make into a simple object, and it just has to do with the color and the objects. I generally just remove sleeping bags entirely. It doesn't exactly add a lot to the game anyway, so I take it out. So we get rid of this house, add this house in. That placement is pretty good. Now it's obviously don't want it sitting in the middle of the road. So we're going to grab all this objects and drag everything back. Now we want this interior filled with only this one room is fillable. But we're going to see if CEI can do it for us. Interior fill, military, okay, and it did. So pretty nice composition. A little bit busy, and again it's got sleeping bags, which I try to avoid. So you can edit this yourself. I'm going to get rid of the large screen. The other thing with ZEI, it does make things simple objects. You can see where it's gray. These are simple objects. anywhere it possibly can, it does make it a simple object. Simple objects just load like 16 or 20 times faster than a non-simple object. It basically means that they cannot be interacted with, and the physics are turned off. They're just a graphic. They're solid, but they're turned off. So I think this is too busy, and it is kind of blocking a door, even though the door is not usable. We may move this in front of the door so people know the door is not usable. This looks a little bit better. You can see CEI does like using the plywood on windows, which is kind of cool. But it also added sandbags on the outside. The sandbags don't match the ones that are there, so we'll use the CEI module again. Object switch, vanilla. Change it all to vanilla objects, so back to the same matching color sandbags. So that's a pretty nice little compound there. It was real quick. It even added a little satellite antenna on top. So you can, like I said, you can use parts of a composition. Again, peachy compositions are really nice. They're pretty well detailed. He's got a lot of them. You know, if you look under each one of these, there's a lot of them in each one. Well, we're not all in peaches right now. There are vanilla compositions, and there are Achilles compositions. And then I also have some cup compositions from ZEC. So under compositions, there's also some nice things, like if I go under construction large, these are interesting compositions. They're just clutter. So the other day when we did our the dump, where we had the kind of the salvage yard, I used pieces of this. So here's junks and wrecks. Instead of having to search through, unfortunately, these aren't available in Zeus, but you can save them as compositions to make them available in Zeus. So this just helps find all the objects. Unfortunately, this isn't all the objects, because this is just, I think that was just the cup ones. Where actually that looks like all vanilla stuff. Cup has Rex, RHS has Rex. Again, knowing that helps. So if I go to objects, props, and just type Rex, then it's going to filter just the type of Rex that are available. You can see there's lots of different Rec sort of thing, abandoned stuff, wrecked helicopters, wrecked vehicles, wrecked boats. So plenty of stuff available. Let's go ahead and put a broken trawler near where one of our missions is going to be. Let's see how deep the water is here. I specifically picked this map because the water was deep. A lot of the maps, unfortunately, the water wasn't even any more deep than this, and that's no fun for subs. So we put a trawler in here, change the, it's still too deep. I want it to be visible, but I don't want it to be interfering with anything. Put that there, and then we'll do the front of the rack, or the back of the rack. And I still think that's a little bit too shallow. I really don't want it to be. It wants to snap to the water. Boy, there we go. And I'll just select them both and move them a little bit deeper. Just want them barely visible. That'll work. So, I know there is a giant wreck here in one of the composition packs. And this is where you just have to know. You know, I know there is a big boat. I don't know where it is. I know it is a boat, so but I don't know what it's called. It could be called trawler. It could be called ship. So I'm gonna just have to look for it, unfortunately. Let's see. And you can't do a subcategory search. So if I know it's a wreck and a boat, I can't put boat and wreck. It wouldn't find them both. That is weird. Maybe under static. There are certain things under static, like this C-130. Even though it's an object, it just basically will stay there, hovering in the air, doing that the whole mission. It doesn't move, doesn't do anything. Okay, so we have static destroyer. Okay, it's not under static. And this is where it becomes difficult to find things sometimes. So it's not there. And I don't see it. So it may have been a mod that we were using. It may have been, no, because that was Altis that I found it on. Alright, well, maybe I'll find it later. Could be under structures. Seaport. We are using civilian ships, one of the mods, TOH, and it just basically adds big giant ships that are static ships. And again, this is just to have, because we're going to be out in the water a lot, this is just to have stuff out in the water with us that we have to avoid. They're entirely static though. Some of them are similar to stuff that's available in other mods, but it was kind of neat to have. Not a lot of detail, but better than nothing. Alright. Alright, so back to where I was. We were doing here, here, here. Alright, I'm gonna go back to here and fill in some of these areas. So, this is supposed to be controlled by the enemy. So right around here, decent sized enemy. Alright, looks like it reconnected.
The video is getting real choppy.
Yeah, just reconnected. Give it a second.
Alright, my kid did not pee on this time.
You sure? It's coming back up. It's just the health is real bad. It's like, yeah, it just died again, and now it came back. Okay. So, wow, it's way behind. Yep, it's trying. Video output low. I think it might be my internet. Alright, if it ever catches up, this is just the composition I had previously. Obviously, it didn't do perfect. It's got some floating objects, so I'll hold Alt, adjust them to the table. Some of these things aren't really necessary, but it adds a little bit. Medical garbage. Medical garbage. Looks like someone was healing themselves on this corner and someone fixing their weapon or something on that corner. And then just an empty table and a couple bunks. I'm just going to adjust everything so that it sits at the right height. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's not a real organized base. And I'm just clicking everything and making sure the height is set right on all stuff. So that's about the type of tent I was looking for here. It doesn't have to be a big base, just enough to make it a little bit difficult to shoot the guys. Give them a place to sleep and stay, a place to get their weapons and talk in here, and then a place to shoot from. That's a decent little size base. And that takes up some of this area. Now, one of the things that you guys really hated was these peaches and their automatic. Oh, I need to clear that. He's got these automatic guns, and you guys really hated those. Let's see, Super Future Autonomous HMG hidden there. Put that out there and put this under the trees, and then there's an autonomous machine gun shooting at you guys. You'll hate that. Again, we're using Somalian, so I don't want the wrong type of weapon ammo, so we'll switch just to a Somalian. Whoops. Somali. Put their ammo box in here. Just make it look better. The shooting platform, you don't have to leave it there. You just leave it on the ground and then try to snap the weapon to the shooting platform. And that will shoot at any good guys that come from that way. Okay. The rest of what I do for our missions, it's all compositions. And this is all stuff that's saved from every time. And we use on every single mission. That's why I know if I just type NAK Tac, should be in their NAK space. Oh yeah, NAK space 2019. And this is our arsenal. So I'm going to probably have a start on the carrier. But I want to make sure that if there is some error, that there is a place on ground where we can go and get our stuff. This is a good empty place where I can just put a small base where we can use as our spawn point. And it's entirely away from our mission area. I could probably even go further away over here somewhere, but I want some flat ground. Here we go. Oh, that's perfect. So here's our arsenal. It's already done as a composition, so I just drag it in. It's easier to see top down sometimes, so get it closer to the fence, holding shift, rotating it slightly. This is stuff that goes in the bottom corner, and this is like the support guy and a couple other things. It just happens to have it there. If you don't, they tend up fighting each other or dying in the water. Oops. Sure, I'm selecting a little bit. And they're coming in. Oh, this one rotated because there's a piece of land right here. So I need to turn this off on these two. Delete it, bring it all back in again, those off. And there you go. See, it ignored the land and didn't adjust to the land height. And I want these right at water level. This is not something that you will really have to do with Zeus. This is just something you need for the editor. Again, here's when you use supports, it automatically creates 3 people. It's the commander, he's the one that does the voice for the support, and this is basically where they'll spawn. And then I also keep a couple backup copies of supply boxes, so that if I need to get a supply box because the supply vehicle got shot down or the box hit the ground and broke, I can just easily drag it and drop it. Next is our map text. I just scroll out, put this on the edge of the map, so it's there. This is our firing range. I'm just going to look for flat ground near, near the base but away from everything. If I can't find flat ground, I have put it out in the water in the past, but because it's really not important, it can go pretty much anywhere. This is a good spot. Let's rotate it there, put it here, and then we'll look at to see what it looks like. Obviously, shooting with all these trees in the way would be hard. Go ahead and want to snap. So shooting with all these trees would be hard. So one of the things that is nice in Editor, under the modules, we're going to do Environment, Hide Terrain Object. We're going to put 1, and then we're going to go to Area Widget, rotate it to be square to what we want. Unfortunately, it's going to be an oval shape. We can't make it a square shape, but it's close enough. And we're just going to stretch it out, and it will hide all the vegetation, rocks, whatever that are on the ground. Rotate it to where we need it. If we want to not hide vegetation, we can remove this checkbox and the vegetation would be there. Say I only wanted to hide a building, I could just leave the building checkbox and uncheck everything else. And we lost the stream again. Sorry. No, it's still going, it's just bad. Hope this doesn't happen tomorrow.
No, it's still good.
Yeah,
It's alright.
So that's how I hide objects, so at least you can see the firing range. You can see, again, certain things didn't get set on the ground, so I always try to double and triple check that. Just select them all. That tank obviously can't be seen there, so what I'm going to do is move it up the hill so it can be seen away from the trees. I don't want to get rid of all the trees. So as long as it should be visible, forward a little bit, and that's good. And then lately I've been putting this in. This, if you look at the init line of it, it makes sure the engine is on and then the lights are on. That way that it does have heat. And then I switch it to captive. So it becomes a civilian as soon as the mission starts. And that way you guys can shoot it. It does have destruction off, so it can't be shot down. And this is just a way so someone can practice the AA rounds. Okay. What I can do now, it's kind of hard to see what it's going to look like and see if I can actually see the targets with all these yellow boxes. And again, that's where it's nice to go down to the firing range. I don't want to hide it, but I want to disable the transformation, and that gets rid of all the yellow boxes. This one and all other terrain markers like that, I generally put in their own category. They're under systems by default, and I normally move them into their own. Right here, this will create a new layer. We'll just call this the terrain layer. And then I'll disable transformation and visibility. It still does what it needs to do, but I don't see the big marker. And I can pretty much see all the targets from here. It's not perfect, but it's good enough for this. Oh, let's see if we can see those tanks. Yep, I can see the tanks. They're not, this one's more visible, this one's less, but that's part of the fun. Alright, this is our restricted arsenal. You see there's code on it. That's why I really can't just put down the exact same arsenal every, in the middle of a game. As a Zeus, you can put down a full arsenal easily. It is difficult to put down a restricted ace arsenal. I can put down a restricted vanilla arsenal, but then we lose the ace functionality and stuff. So, part of that was good checking. Part of the teleport is markers. I forgot to check. Let's see if I can find these markers. It's called range. When I move the
Bandit Angel 11 left your channel.
There it is. When I move the firing range, I don't think I moved the marker. Where is it? Oh, I'm hiding it. Transformation back on. Okay. So yeah, this marker right here is where people teleport to when they use the flag to teleport. And then at the base, there's another one that will come down when I put all the people. And that's their respawn point and the teleport marker at the same time. So back to my compositions. NAK Tac 2019. Full unit of MPT. So this is all of our people. It has the TFAR, has friendly fire messages, and it has one game master unit, which is a Zeus. I've been leaving that just in case, you know, an approved Zeus wants to help me out, or someone that has experience wants to help me out. They can come in as Zeus and have the abilities. So let's make sure that the marker came. It did not. So let's create a marker. Oops. Marker system empty. And because this is their respawn marker, we need to give it a variable, a very specific variable called respawn_west. And so this is where people will come if they die. And it's also what I set up as the teleport from the firing range to come back to base. Back to here and here. So we get the full range. Okay, we need the game master and admin. So this just allows me to be Zeus. Claus can be Zeus. And then anybody logged in as admin can be Zeus. These are our supports. On this mission, I don't think I'm going to give you guys any AA or, any CAS support because you guys are going to be in the boats. I may add it to that last mission before before we hit the ground, the last mission. But you can see I've added all the support stuff that we need. It's all pretty much done, and just if you have a composition, you just paste it in. So this is the support for the transport helicopter, the attack helicopter, and the supply drop. This is what calls them, and it's basically built into a trigger that is on each of the commanders. So if I go clear this, go to Blue 4. Oops. Oh, I've got a crew. Shoot, that really messed me up. I forgot to clear this boat. That's okay. So NAK command. I go and look at his init line. It doesn't like when I hit my push to talk in the middle. You can say he's grouped to command, and he is the NAK command to the S request, which links to the support. So there is some code on those support. That's why only the fire team leads and NAK command and squad leader can request support. If we wanted everybody to do it, all we would have to do is link everybody to that requester marker. And that's it. So we got our map text, we got our full unit, we got this, so we can save the mission and test it. So test, I'm actually testing it in multiplayer, so it's going to start a server on my local machine. It's going to give me the role selection.
Very informational.
Yeah. This is loading all the arsenals and stuff, so it does take a moment for the server to initially start up. But we set it globally so that it doesn't have to load on every client every time they come in. So continue.
Switch to NAK Tac Task Force Radio.
Whoops.
Switch to Admin Online.
Whoops. NAK Tac, you can see, is running, or TFAR is actually running on it now, even though it's only running locally. The support's loaded. The CBA key bindings are there. And I'm coming in as myself. So, basic test, check the firing range. It got me here. The helicopter's up there. I can see the tank and the other another tank. And I can see some of the targets. Now I can obviously see that I can't see enough of the targets, and the grass is probably a lot of that. But I think if I move the whole firing range up to here, I'll be able to see everything much better. So that's what I'll do, is I'll come back in the editor and just move everything 20 meters forward. Come back over here to the flag and make sure I can get back to base, and I can. So this is the mission basically entirely ready for me to come in and put down players. I will probably edit it a little bit more, but I don't need to go into all that in the video here. But this map, if I hit Y, you can see me go into Zeus mode. I can show you Zeus while I'm here and what it looks like differently from the editor. Okay, so unfortunately we'll get an error, like joining Zeus comes in differently. So this is Zeus. I can see all the players, they'll just look like this. I can see all the different objects that are empty. If you want to see every object, oh, I'm not running Achilles, so you're not going to see everything, unfortunately. Achilles gives a lot of really, really good stuff, including one of the Achilles commands you'll need under Zeus. It will be add or remove Zeus objects, and generally, if, for example, I place things down in the editor, some of them you can see, you can't see the buildings. You see the vehicles, but all these buildings I put down in the editor, these can actually be moved if I add them to be owned by the Zeus. And that's one of the Achilles modules that you'll use a lot. Now this is all wrong too. This stuff should be in a building, and it's ghosted out here. And it was supposed to be in this building. So we're going to have to find out what went wrong there. So let me go ahead and one of the things I always do is come in and Zeus check, make sure things are on the ground, make sure things aren't in the wrong place. Try to make sure that buildings, the grass isn't showing through on the buildings. These buildings I had to raise a tiny little bit so the ground over here didn't show through the floor. Same with this one, you can see a little bit of grass coming through the edges. That's okay. You hear tiny bit of ground sticking through the bottom of the floor. I might raise that just a tiny bit more so that that doesn't happen. Again, that's just stuff done in the editor. But everything else looks okay. Yep, this all looks okay. I'll come and fix those things. And then here's our second objective. I may put a little bit more here to make it a little bit of a hardened bunker, like in this area here, to give them a good target to hit with their ships. There's some nice targets here. I mean, these are all, to me, these all look like barracks type building where the enemy would be sleeping. Not perfect military barracks, but definitely looks like barracks. So that, and it does have watchtowers around the outside, which is nice. It's a well-made map, and give us enough to do. All right, I'm going to end the stream, and then you can ask me any questions in TeamSpeak. Thanks for watching the stream, guys. Tomorrow, when we're doing some of the pre-Zeusing warm-up, I may stream some then, so you guys can actually see some more Zeus in action versus editor in action. Thanks for watching.